The fact that he's running again is so wild when you watch him talk. The fact that there's no leadership that can find a solution to this, because there really is no solution. I mean, we've bantered about it, you and I, and a lot of other people have as well. Like, what are they going to do? Like, what is the other than Biden dying, like very soon, and then someone stepping up in a big way that makes sense.
Which is not beyond the realm of possibility. He's older than the average life expectancy, I believe, already. Not saying he will die, but that is possible. I'm sure there are a lot of people like in the Democratic establishment who have been like, I could just imagine there's a boardroom with like very powerful people meeting who they're like, okay, we're getting him out. What's the plan? Like, how do we do this? And I think they just cannot come up with one.
I can't come up with one. Well, I mean, I'm not a political strategist, but, you know, I know the landscape. I know who's out there.
He's perhaps brilliantly insulated himself by making Kamala Harris his vice president.
It's not a bad move.
Because they're like, well, we can't have her.
It's like with Dan Quayle, with Bush.
What do you want?
Yeah, you think Bush is dumb? Look at this fucking guy. Yeah, it's amazing. It's a good move. I mean, it's kind of a bitch move, though. You know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like those headliner comics who bring terrible openers.
Yeah, that's what it is.
You know? It's
like, yeah, you really want to do an hour after Kamala Harris? Like, all right. The crowd's dead, but all right.
Time is like time. It just passes, and time is something that we're all aware of.
But I gotta say, I don't understand it, Joe, because sometimes you'll see it and you're like, all right, you're doing a thing here. Like, this isn't real. You're like, is this a strategy of some sort to just say nothing and like sound as dumb as possible? Because you can't be this dumb.
I think it's panic. I think it's anxiety, and I think it's panic, and I think no one can understand, even you and I who perform live in front of strangers all the time, we would never be able to understand the kind of pressure that must be on a person who's deeply unqualified for the job, and then all of a sudden finds herself in there through, you know, he went out of his way to say that he was going to have a black woman. Like, it was a thing that he wanted to do. It was like they had these diversity and inclusivity checkpoints that they had to reach.
Which is also just a really shitty thing to do to her. It's like a really profoundly selfish thing, if you think about it. Because if you wanted, say, you wanted to make Kamala Harris your vice president because, you know, you want a woman of color in there or whatever. The thing to do would be to say, I'm going to find the absolute best, most qualified person, and then pick her. But if you do that, like, that would be more generous toward her, because then it makes it look at least like she was the best person for the job.
Right.
Whereas if you say, I'm going to make sure I pick a black woman, now you get all the brownie points for like, oh, how woke you are. But now you kind of undermine her as like, well, she's the best black woman I could find. That's not necessarily the best candidate, or, you know. So it's a shitty move.
I think it's a good thing. I've talked to a lot of intelligent people that think it's important for representation, and I'm like, I could see how you would say that in a lot of jobs, but this is probably the most important one that anyone could ever have ever.
So see,
it's got to be a meritocracy.
Well, what's weird about it is it's almost as if there's some weird prejudice built into that idea, because if you don't believe in like superiority or inferiority of different races or different groups
or genders,
different genders, then you would just go, well, make it a meritocracy, and let the absolute best person have the job. And I'm confident in that system that lots of different people will be represented.
Right.
Whereas if you're saying like, well, no, we need to make sure it's like, wouldn't it be more ideal to just have the best person at every job?
Yeah.
And then to have any type of forced diversity?
Right.
Like, why would that not be better? Everyone in society is better off if the best person qualified for jobs gets those jobs.
Yes.
You want the best scientists and the best doctors and the best pilots and you want everyone to be the best.
Yeah.
No one ever wants like your surgeon to be picked based on anything other than the best at performing this surgery.
Yes. Yeah. You don't ever say, I want a white man doing surgery on me. Like, no, it's like, who the fuck is that Chinese lady the best? Bring her in.
Like, do more people survive when she does
Jesus
it?
Christ.
I'd like her.
Who's the expert? Fix my brain. Yeah. it's interesting because it's like it's very similar in some ways to affirmative action, right? And affirmative action, in my opinion, is you're addressing a problem without addressing the root of the problem. The root of the problem is, why are so many people of color disenfranchised? Why are so many people who grow up in neighborhoods where there's rampant crime and violence, and why haven't they fixed those fucking neighborhoods? They're dumping so much money into all these problems overseas. We have systemic problems in America that never get addressed. Until those, and this is like generations it takes to fix these problems. It's like a long-term strategy. But I've always said this. If you want to make America the best, what would be the best way to do that? Well, you want less losers, right? So what's the best way to have fewer losers? To give more people opportunities. So who are the people that have the least opportunities? The people that are in the most fucked places. You could fix that. There's ways you could dump tons of money and resources into inner cities, into these problem areas, with law enforcement, with community centers, places where people could go, where they have like things to do, and people can train them in whether it's athletics or different jobs and and show them and mentor them. That's all. That's not like prohibitively impossible. You're not saying like they all deserve their own nuclear power plant.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like what you're saying is totally doable.